I'm actually... Okay. I actually don't want to read this news item.
Do you need me to read it?
Headline is emergency room refuses to treat pregnant women, leaving one to miscarry in a lobby restroom. So I'm getting bits coming in that are just bits with no money attached. But yeah, you can make Suris say ooh by just sending me bits and super chats and whatnot. Yeah, so emergency rooms refuse to treat pregnant women, leaving one to miscarry in a lobby restroom. I'm not reading the article because the article is just fucking depressing. This was sent to me by Fennec. Thanks, Fennec. Yeah, Fennec already knows what they did. They say sorry about that.
Sorry in advance.
Yeah.
I know what I did.
So this is one of the things that, like, we've been talking about since before the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. We talked about how, like, if Roe versus Wade got overturned, people were going to die. It's going to be a nasty shit show or whatever. There was a federal law that's in place that it basically mandates that any emergency room that accepts funds from Medicare or Medicaid has to, anyone that goes in there, doesn't matter what the condition is, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what their insurance status is, they have to at least stabilize them. It's federal law. And when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, the White House issued a clarification on that law saying that, yes, this includes providing abortions even if abortions are illegal in that state. And complaints from pregnant people under this law drastically increased as soon as Roe versus Wade was overturned. It's like before it would happen occasionally. It was like in the last year, there was like maybe 12 cases. And then there were like several dozen cases since Roe versus Wade was overturned of like pregnant people going to the emergency room saying, hey, there's something going on with my pregnancy. I don't know what it is. I need medical care to fix it. And then because the emergency rooms are like, oh, well, abortions are illegal here and you look like you're pretty late term. And there's a chance that whatever is wrong with your pregnancy, the treatment might be an abortion. So we're just going to not even check you in. And so this has resulted in, like the one from the headline where a woman miscarried in the restroom. And then they called 911 from the restroom in an emergency room and then had to explain to the 911 operators that, like, hey, yeah, I know I'm in a medical facility, but I need emergency services because they're refusing to check me in because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
There was a baby that was delivered. They were turned away from the hospital they went to. They said, go to this other hospital. And on their way to the other hospital, the woman gave birth in her car and the baby fucking died. The baby that they wanted to keep fucking died because they wouldn't take them in the emergency room because these fuckers are more concerned about a fucking cluster of cells that has no brain than they are about actual fucking human beings. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit mad.
No, it makes sense. So you gotta remember.
So no. Actually, no. I take it back. I'm not sorry that I'm a little bit mad.
I am
fucking pissed.
Never be sorry you're mad about something like this. You're a parent. It's literally impossible for you to look at this and not see yourself in the shoes of the person who lost a child.
Yeah, I get, like, how fucking traumatizing is that? To be, like, driving to a hospital, like, you go to the hospital for medical care, and they say, sorry, we can't take you here because you're pregnant, the care might be an abortion, so because we don't want to go to prison, because these fucking idiots have dictated prison terms for performing abortions, we're going to send you to a different hospital and hope that they take you in. And then on your way there, you give birth to the baby that you wanted, and then that baby fucking dies because those people were fucking jackass. Ugh.
No,
this is why I'm not reading the article.
Because it would be worse.
I would need to go to the emergency room.
And it's a good thing you're not pregnant.
Because I live in Ontario, where Doug Ford is trying to privatize our healthcare because he's a fucking idiot. Our emergency room in my town is no longer an emergency room. They turned it to an urgent care center, which provides fewer services than emergency rooms. And they now also close at 8 o'clock, which it used to be 24 hours. So fuck you, Doug Ford. We'll just get you in here.
Christ.
But yeah.
Yeah, no. So your anger is justified in every way, shape, and form. You are a parent. It's impossible to look at the situation and not feel everything that the potential mother would have been feeling. Like you can't distance yourself far enough away from the situation to not be affected by it. It's your empathy.
Oh,
and that's a fine thing to feel. This is exactly what we said was going to happen, though. And I'm not saying that as like a, hey, guys, no, we told you so. No, I don't
not
need
want
that.
I don't want the I told you so on this one.
Yeah, we don't need
I
it.
so much don't want the I told you so. My pagan garden says, as a medical professional, every person involved in overturning Roe v. Wade needs to be prosecuted for murder. I mean, they say the same about the people who perform abortions, because that's killing babies, even though they fucking don't have brains at that point.
Which means it's okay to say they should be prosecuted for murder because they are wanting the exact same thing themselves. It's tit for tat. The other thing it is, you know what? No, I'm not going to say that. I don't want to risk your channel. I don't want to risk mine. So I'll just say that there is a thought in my head that I can't say.
Something about how easy it is to find the certain addresses of certain public officials?
I can't say.
And certain forms of activism that are generally frowned upon?
Again, I cannot say.
Yeah, I have no comment on that.
I don't have... Yep, I didn't think you would.
And I'm fucking angry enough that if I were to have a comment on that, it would be the kind that would get both our channels shut down permanently.
Like, if you are directly involved in pushing a law that has a demonstrable negative effect on human life, how and in what way should you be held accountable? That's all I'll say. How and in what way do you think you should be accountable to the public?
You're missing an important aspect of this here. What would the founding fathers have thought of this issue?
Smoothbore musket to face.
Okay, fair enough.
That's what they did to the British. That's what the founding fathers did to the British. Like, do you want the founding fathers?
Originalism for the win. Fennec says, me and my partner want children. We want to be parents, but I am terrified because what if something goes wrong? Yeah. Like, this is the thing. They want people to have kids, supposedly. But, like, people aren't going to want to have kids if they know that being pregnant carries with it the risk that you're potentially going to, like, end up with a dead baby in your car en route to the hospital because the last hospital turned you away because you're pregnant. And, like, you go to places like Idaho where they're shutting down maternity wards left, right, and center because all the obstetricians and gynecologists are leaving the state because they can't do their thing there. Like, the Bible Belt's turning into, well, the Bible Belt plus a few of the Midwestern states are turning into, what's it called? That place from the Handmaid's Tale. What they renamed the United States as. Gideon. Was it Gideon?
I don't remember. Gilead.
Gilead, that's the one. Yes, Gilead.
Robert Adset says that's why birth control is next. Yeah. There have been some have been some rumblings.
There have been, like, yeah, no, it's there are some Republicans that would be like, oh no, of course we wouldn't come for the birth control. That's just too far. But then there have been other Republicans that have been saying, no, of course we're fucking coming for the birth control. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I just
No. There we go. Nope. No, I want to be here. That's where I want to be. Sorry. Yeah, hi guys. Sorry, that was my bad, and it was black for longer than it had to be. I meant to go into studio mode before doing that, but I didn't. Yeah, no. There was a bunch of super chats that came through that we weren't hearing the ooh that was supposed to come with that. You guys might have been hearing it, but Suris wasn't, and it's really only funny if Suris can hear it. Dark Falcon says, even as a single asexual, I share your sentiments. Yeah, no, this is not something that is constrained to just parents. Like, yeah, I can empathize
human life.
I can empathize more with like people who've lost a kid. Like, okay, having ADHD, I do have intrusive thoughts. And one of the intrusive thoughts that commonly occurs, like, while I'm trying to go to fucking bed at night, will be like, playing out these very detailed scenarios of ways that my kids could die. And it's so fucking depressing. I can, like, there have been times when I've been like crying myself to sleep because of something that has very little chance of ever fucking happening. And that's just something that I live with, because that's one of the consequences of ADHD, is you have intrusive thoughts more often. So like, yeah, I can empathize with that from the sense that, like, I have vividly imagined what that would be like over and over and over again. And I can actually tell you that the same thing happened, like, when my wife is alive. Same thing happened, where, like, I was imagining scenarios where she would die and I would have to tell the kids. And then that fucking happened. And I can tell you that my imaginations of how hard it would be to have that conversation with my kids, spot on. Like, that, like, having that conversation with my kids was almost more painful than the loss in the first place. So, like, I'm not saying that I know exactly what it feels like to lose a kid. I am saying that I can empathize with that to a degree. Like, obviously, it's not the same thing having these vivid imaginings that I can't control. But I know from experience that it's not far off. So, like, yes, I do have that empathy, but, like, I think anyone that just has a lick of sense can look at situations like this and just feel complete sorrow for the people that are, like, losing their babies or losing their spouses, losing their parents, because these people call themselves pro-life because they want to protect a fucking blastocyst at the expense of people who actually have brains and have experiences and have family and relationships and people who love them.
You know what the worst part about all this is, though? The worst part
is that we might consider maybe having gun regulation at some point.
No.
Oh, that's not the worst part?
No, the worst part is that I have to first do a quick intervention because I lost the ability to type in my chat because OBS is stupid when it comes to restream.
Yeah.
Vi, real quick, I will say this. I cannot advocate for violent protest. I can't. Because the thing is, the people who are most often involved in protests and counter-protests are not the people in power that are actually doing anything one way or the other. So a lot of times when you do engage in violent protests, there ends up being collateral damage that doesn't affect the people who actually caused the harm in the first place. I can understand why violent protest happens, because after all, what is a violent protest but a shout that you're not being heard? And then you have to ask yourself the question of, well, then what message isn't being heard? But at the same time, in terms of effectiveness, it's very hard to judge whether it is effective at doing anything but putting the media's eyes on you. Vi says, I mean violent protest against government buildings, not private businesses. Again, collateral damage. It is very hard to find government buildings that are not also near private businesses. But that said, that quick thing that I had to get out of the way, the bad part, the awful part about this is that we can't actually be inside the mind of people who advocate for these kinds of policies to get pushed through that end up serving to detriment human life. The reason why I say that's bad, from my point of view of a content creator who wants to change people's minds for the better, who wants to change people out of the extremist problematic behavior and into functioning with their fellow man, it's impossible to tell which politicians are doing this because they sincerely believe this is the right thing to do, and how many of them they're doing it because somebody with money is in their ear. And without knowing which one it is, it's very hard to figure out the proper angle of attack. How do you convince a politician when you are one voter in a lobby standing for 8 hours near a rope line, when the other person in their ear is saying, hey, I can give you a yacht, or hey, I can pay for your wife's medical expenses, or because that's a fucking leveraging point in America. How do you
are you saying socialized medicine would actually make it harder to bribe politicians?
Yes, I am. Wow, weird. But it's very, very hard to figure out the angle of change when you can't figure out where the actual pressures are to the people who are pushing through these policies. I wish that I had a clean and easy solution to shit like this, other than, vote in better politicians. But even then, there's no guarantee that you're not just going to get another stooge that's being controlled by somebody else. But the worst part about that, like I said, is that without access to what's in the brains of those politicians, there's no way to tell which ones of them are stooges that you're just revolving dooring and which one of them's actually 100% believe the things they're advocating for and desperately need to be rotated out ASAP. There's no way to know, and there's no way to tell. Obviously, there's the easy, standby of, hey, politicians lie, expect them to lie. Just like, when I asked fucking Bill Krauser about a bill, and I had it in my hand, and he's like, I don't think we're voting on that one. Yes, the fuck you are. You're doing it in 3 days. So, yes, politicians lie, but I wish that we had the ability to go into their minds and see what pressures are actually causing them to act the way they do, to advocate the way they do. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I wish I could figure out exactly why she thinks the inane, dumb, space lasery shit that she does. Not because I think it would be funny, haha, but because I want to sincerely understand, how does a human being fall that far?
Yeah. It's wild. So, Dark Falcon, ya basic. Welcome to basic membership. Neuromptiput said, personally, I think human personhood is a spectrum and 0-day-old babies are still pretty far short of it. So when I was revising my position on abortion, because coming out of religion, very conservative religion, I was anti-abortion. And coming out of that, my opinion changed on it very slowly and gradually, and I did lots of research into it. And one of the things that I found was that the parts of the brain that are capable of having experiences and where we would consider personhood to sit, the ability to think about things and experience things, more than just stimulus reaction, actually considering consequences and long-term thinking and having the experience in the first place. Those things don't even start developing until the 3rd trimester. And an argument could be made that they're not developed enough to actually consider personhood to be a thing until the baby is about 1 year old. Now, this is not me saying that abortion should be viable even after birth up until 1 year of age. I consider that to be ridiculous. As soon as the baby is born, no, that is a separate person that has rights even without experiences. But that made me feel a whole hell of a lot better about late-term abortion. The fact that the baby is kind of not a person for the first year out of the uterus doesn't make me want to say okay, fine, then kill the baby up to 1 year old if you change your mind and don't want a kid anymore. But that makes the 3rd trimester abortion a lot less controversial in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was kind of the position I was landing on, is that until those parts of the brain start developing, abortion's fine, whatever, doesn't matter. And then after those parts of the brain start developing, then maybe it should only be in the case of if the mother's health is in danger. But once I learned that, it's oh, okay, no, it's actually fine right up until they're ready to give birth. And then after birth, that's a completely separate topic, because now you've got a completely viable separate human entity, whereas before that, it's a baby that it's reliant on the mother for every there is the viability argument where okay, yeah, maybe you should consider other options than abortion that late because there's the viability argument, but ultimately it should just be a decision between the pregnant person and their healthcare provider. The government should not have any fucking say in it whatsoever. But yeah, okay, that's enough about that. My blood pressure can't take anymore.
Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.